Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how I was able to speed farm stage 30 of the event dungeon with Wukong. And you can pretty much do this on every single stage, and it works on stage 30 as well. And you can also push a little further than that, but there are also some options that you can add to the team. If you can't manage to hit the damage thresholds, then you can also use other options to push your damage even further. So as you can see, I was able to go to stage 32 with this method, and I'm going to show you how this works, okay? So basically, this is a very common strategy to farm the event dungeon. It has been done before. I also did it before, but on the last event dungeon, it was much harder to do it. This time, the boss seems a lot squishier, and therefore, it is a little bit easier to do. The only difference that we have right now is a hegemon that always goes first, okay? So that's kind of a thing you have to play around, because he can put up the block active skills. He doesn't hit too hard. You can survive it pretty easily on stage 30. The higher you climb on stage 35, that's where he really hits hard. So here on stage 30, you can definitely survive it, but the block active skills is the problem. Let's first take a run, and then I'm going to explain you exactly how this works, okay? So you have to keep in mind that this is not a full auto team. You have to click on Hegemon, because otherwise we won't be able to one-shot the boss. As you can see, sometimes, I don't deal enough damage, and then the boss doesn't die. But most of the time, I'm just one-shotting him, okay? So there are a few things that you can do here if if your damage is not consistent enough. For example, what you can do here is bring in a Cavalax, okay? Bringing a Cavalax doesn't only push your damage, it also weakens Hegemon a little bit. He would take ticks of the poisons because he's going first, right? And therefore he's a little bit weaker. The amount of HP we have to deplete before the splash damage goes out is a little bit lower, so there's more splash damage basically, okay? So the first thing we can do here is put in a Cavalax. Now I'm just going to put in the Cavalax without a feral set, and let's see how this works out, okay? Now, as you already noticed, Necrit is protecting Wukong. That's why he's here, okay? That's pretty much the main reason. And boom, 5 seconds this time. It's 1 second slower as if you wouldn't use Cavalax, because it's another animation, okay? That takes another second. That's why it's a little bit slower. But as you saw, it will make this run 100% a one-shot, okay? It will always be, 5 seconds, unless we get 3%ed on Shuzan. So that can happen too, right? That can happen too. But if I would now put Cavalax, okay, in a 9-piece feral set, let's do that actually, because then we get additional damage for every poison he puts up. He puts up 4 poisons at start. So that means additional 20% damage unless one of those poisons gets resisted, okay? So now I could, instead of having Shuzan in a 9-piece protection set and risk the 3%, I can now put her in a 4-piece feral set, so she has that block debuffs. And then we make this run more consistent, okay? All right, so now we have Shuzan in a 4-piece feral set, and we have Cavalax in a 9-piece feral set. So basically, we get the extra damage from Cavalax now instead of from Shuzan's buffs, okay? All right, so let's do this again, one more time. This should be working as, the same way as before. Hegemon takes damage of the poisons, and boom, one shot again. 5 seconds, no problem. Now you don't risk any 3%. I mean, you can, theoretically the Hegemon can resist the Cavalax poisons, maybe 1 or 2, maybe all of them, but the chance that that happens is really low. And if you want to push it a little bit further, okay, let's say you can't really hit the damage that you need to take out the boss with 1 shot, add another Beta Khazar. This will give you another 20% damage on your Wukong. He has a passive that he deals 20% more damage to targets under poisons, okay? Let's actually test that one time. Okay, I have to check if he has gear on or not. Probably not. So yeah, let's just put something on him. To be honest, he just needs to survive. That's all he needs to do. Other than that, he doesn't need to do anything. So we're just gonna put some random stone skin pieces on him, whatever. So yeah, we already have 4 pieces of stone skin. That should be enough to survive, okay? So now we got a 9-piece feral set on Cavalax, so we get additional 20% more damage against targets under poisons, and we have Necred in a 9-piece protection set. So as you see, there are many ways to add additional damage multipliers to your nuker, and you can play around here, add more champions, you know, until you hit the damage threshold. Obviously now it took 6 seconds, for example. It will get slower the more champions you add. If you don't have Bad L or Cavalax, you can probably just add a Feral, okay? That would work too. Let's test that. Feral, is he geared? No, he's not. All right, let's put some gear on him. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like I said, for this, he just needs to be alive and a part of the team. And then his passive will kick in, which will give Wukong another 20% more damage, okay? So let's give him like 4 stone skin pieces as well. So he survives the Hegemon hit, which he probably would do anyway, but we're still just gonna put some stone skin gear on him. All right, so let's see. That should work as well. Target Hegemon, don't forget that, you know. The thing is that Wukong with his affinity will always target Lausanne because he's weak affinity. So that's kind of like the biggest issue here with this comp, with this, you know, speed farming strategy. That's the problem with his AI. But other than that, you know, you can maybe set up an auto clicker or something and click on a Hegemon all the time. Okay, so you can definitely find a way to do it. It will always be 3 turns if you do it like this. So Shuzan into Wukong, right? Hegemon will take 1 turn, then Shuzan, and then Wukong. And those are the 3 turns, and then it should be over. So let's do this one more time. So here again, a little bit more damage is what's needed. But once the ads are down, it is pretty much game over. There's nothing that can happen. The boss won't kill you, okay? That's just how it goes. So like I said, you can always add more champions that would add more damage. Like, you know, Feral, we had Cavalax plus Bad L. So those definitely need to be in a combination. So theoretically, I could use now Cavalax as well in a 9-piece Feral set, okay? So let's try this one more time. Now we should have more than enough damage to do this. And I really love bringing Cavalax here because he's already weakening Hegemon with the poison ticks. That's the thing that I like about Cavalax. You know, he's already dealing like 20% more damage on him. Obviously, I also have the Volcardiac Heart on Necrid, which damages Hegemon a little bit more. So all of that plays a little bit into Wukong so he can one-shot the boss. And those are kind of like the different ways to do it. Like I said, if I would have a 6-star blessing on Wukong, it would probably be a lot easier for me to do this. You know, the boss is level 350, so with a 6-star crushing rend, I would ignore another 35% of his defense. He's already ignoring 50% with his skill, so that's already at 85, right? So theoretically, you wouldn't need to put a Merciless set on him. You could probably use something else, like 3 Zeal sets, right? That's another 36% more damage, and then reach the Death Ignore Cat with a Cat's Gaze, for example. But yeah, let's talk about the gear, because I think that's pretty interesting to see. So the reason why this works so well is because Shuzan is buffing that increased crit rate, right? She's buffing also increased attack and increased crit damage. So all of these 3 buffs are pushing Wukong's damage. And because she's buffing that increased crit rate, that allows me to build Wukong with 70% crit rate, okay? That's a big factor that plays into this, why I am able to build him with enough damage to one-shot the boss. And he's at 9k attack. You don't really have to care about speed because Shuzan will just give Wukong that instant turn. He's at 392 crit damage, and I also built him with accuracy, which you don't really need to do. But there's a reason why I did it, and that is because I have this gemstone on him, where his damage increases by 1% per 100 of their total accuracy. So with 400 accuracy, he gets another 4% more damage. Then I have 10% more damage from each circular gemstone. So that's 24% more damage just from gemstones. I have the Gore Crescent relic on him. That means after killing an enemy, he deals 35% more damage. So you can already see there's a lot of damage multiplying going on here. This is not pushing his damage from the initial hit, but the splash damage afterwards will be affected by this 35% more damage, okay? So that's why he's dealing such a big hit as well. And also, the stats from this relic do benefit Wukong a lot. Attack and crit damage is definitely what we want. Now, he's obviously completely booked. I have the Crushing Rend on him, which pushes him almost to 100% def ignore. You know, with his A2, he's ignoring 50% of the target's defense. Then I have a 6-piece Merciless set on him. That's 85% def ignore. And then he's ignoring another 14%, right? Level 350, that's 14%. So I'm exactly at 99% def ignore with this skill right here. And I could probably push it to 100% if I use Pierce defenses here. So you can definitely do that. But I think the 4% more damage are more than the 1% def ignore that is missing. So yeah, pretty interesting. This relic, I really like it on Wukong for this type of stuff. It really pushes the damage a lot from the splash. At first, when I saw this relic, I didn't really like it that much, but I definitely think it has a nice use here for this one-shot strategy. And then here are the masteries. Increases the damage inflicted by 5% when attacking with full HP. Then another 6% when attacking targets with higher max HP. So that's 11% already. And then another 8% for the first hit on each enemy. So that's 19% more damage from masteries, plus the 20% crit damage from the tier 6 mastery, and then obviously 10% more crit damage from the tier 2 mastery. And as you can see, his gear is not even fully ascended, so there's like 100 attack missing. I didn't really try to max out all his glyphs and so on. Now, I definitely did for this one because it's a crazy ring, right? Like a feral ring with a triple attack roll. That's worth a max glyph or a 6-star glyph. But yeah, I only have a 5-star crit damage amulet, for example. So there's a lot of crit damage missing here. That would be another 9% crit damage, for example. Also, the attack rolls are not that great on this one. I have an accuracy banner, but it's pretty good. Although the speed rolls on it are not that impactful for this situation right here. Also, I'm using a rare piece. I have a speed ascension on the boots, so there's another 20% attack right here that I could add, but I don't really want to invest too much, and it's not really necessary, right? I already hit the amount of damage that I need to do to one-shot the boss, so I guess you can go a little bit lower than that, but I don't know exactly how much you need. So I haven't tested what the minimum requirement is, but I wouldn't go much lower than this. But you can probably hit like, I don't know, like 370 crit damage and then 8.8k attack or something like that, maybe. And then if it doesn't work, you can always add damage multiplying champions like, you know, Cavalax and 9-piece Feral set, plus Beta Khazar or Firul. All right, let's talk about Shuzan. So I showed you 2 builds, right? You can use her in a 9-piece protection set. But if you do that, if you use her in a 9-piece protection set, you have to have at least 615 resistance. Otherwise, you won't be able to resist Hegemon and the whole run will fail. So this was the build that I initially used. As you can see, I hit exactly 615 resistance, which is what you need to resist Hegemon. Okay, so that works, but you risk a 3% chance to fail. So the better option would be to have a 4-piece Feral set on her. That way you have a block debuffs buff on Shuzan and she can't get debuffed at all. So you take out the 3% out of the equation, right? That is kind of the thing. All you have to worry about with Shuzan though is that she's faster than the boss, and the boss sits at 291 speed, okay? And yeah, that's pretty much it about Shuzan. Then obviously 9-piece Cavalax is nothing more to it. You have to have like 600 accuracy, okay? A little bit more wouldn't hurt, but that's like the minimum you should go for. Otherwise your debuffs will get resisted. And then a Bad Al or a Firo don't really need any gear. You can just put like 4 random stone skin pieces on them so they survive the Hegemon hit, and that's about it. Now with Necrid, he's in a 9-piece protection set, and he's kind of important for this comp because he's protecting Wukong, so I don't have to, build Wukong with immunity or stone skin. Otherwise, Hegemon would put up the block active skills on him. But because of his passive, where he puts up the block debuffs and strengthen and ally protection, that's 3 buffs plus the shield that he gets from getting hit. That's 4 buffs actually that he puts up on Wukong, so that's 20% more damage because of that 9-piece protection set, okay? And that's another thing with Necrid, he doesn't need to be fast or whatever. He can be the slowest in the team, it doesn't matter. All he has to do is protect Wukong and put up those buffs, and that's about it. So that's another thing you have to pay attention to. Wukong needs to be the lowest HP, okay? He needs to be the lowest HP, so Necrid puts up those buffs on him. Right here, you can see it. He will put up those buffs on the ally with the lowest max HP at the start of each round, okay? So that's very important. So I actually did stage 31 and 32 in 5 and 6 seconds with Wukong. So it is possible, but stage 33, that's where it stops. But then again, you only need to beat those stages once, so it is whatever. But stage 30 is a consistent 4-second farm, or a 5-second farm, depending on how many champions you use. And this will always work. The only thing that you have to do, is target Hegemon. That's kind of like the downside here. Because of the weak affinity of Lo-San towards Wukong, he will always target, Lo-San. And maybe you saw it, he hit the boss for like 8.2 million damage. That was actually insane. So yeah, 5-second farm. 4-second is the best. If you can do it with Wukong, Shuzan, and Necrid alone. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. I know this is probably not realistic for a lot of people to do, but I just wanted to show you what is possible with a Wukong, for example. If you have the right stats, the right champions in combination, and the right gear, you can farm those event dungeon stages in a couple of seconds, and that's how a lot of endgame players are doing it. But most of them are using a Siegfried, for example, because he doesn't really care about Lo-San. Because of his magic affinity, he won't target him, and then, you don't have to do anything, basically. You don't have to click on a Hegemon or whatever. There's also another champion that can do the same thing that Wukong does here, and that is a very, very old champion, actually. I mean, Wukong has been in the game for quite a long time now, too. But the one champion that I'm talking about is this guy, and he has also surplus damage on his A1, which can also one-shot the boss, okay? So this is probably the next best thing to a Wukong. Maybe you have a Baron with a 6-star blessing, then he's definitely, a better option. But there are also other champions that can do it. Anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. The YouTube algorithm is going to suggest you a video that you might like right here, and see you in the next one.